Good evening. Yeah. Good evening and welcome. Thank you for having me here tonight. I am humbled to be standing at this podium. I would like to take this opportunity to extend my enormous hakaras hatov to the school of my youth, all the way from Mora Malki in kindergarten, Mora Adi in pre-1A, and all through seminary. Bais Rivkah provided me with a chinuch that has very much molded me into who I am today. Mora Tachtel, Mrs. Brower. When my great-uncles were around 8 and 10 years old, they suddenly came home from school one day due to the fact that their tuition had not been paid. My great-grandmother, Baba Chaya Posner, took them by the hand, went right back on the train with them, back to school, straight into the director's office, and pleaded with them. She said, "In many years from now, when I am older, I might have all the means necessary to cover the tuition owed. But the chinuch of my children is something that has to be done now. By then, it will be too late." Touched by her words, he, needless to say, took the boys back into school, and both of these brothers became scholars and leaders within the Jewish community. As mothers, our job can seem daunting. We give birth to these children, and we have just a small little window of time to instill in them, to impart all the values and all the lessons that we would like our children to take with them through life. We don't want our children to grow up viewing Yiddishkeit as a superficial routine that they just have to get through every day. Especially today, our children need real substance. We can't expect them just to do things because that's how they've always been done, or because if they don't, they'll get punished. Our children need to practically see how Yiddishkeit is precious. And this cannot be done through preaching. Rabbi Manis Friedman once told my husband years ago that the job of a shliach is to make people jealous of him. Jealous of his family, jealous of the love and respect with which he looks at his wife, jealous of the attentiveness he gives to his children, jealous of the serenity around the Shabbos table, and just in general of the life that we lead. I very much feel that this really applies so much to our young and impressionable children. If we exude happiness and joy and positivity in living a frum life, thank you, although I have nowhere to put it here. No, that's it. Chances are extremely high that they will want to lead the same life. I often think of our homes as like our own little miniature Chabad house. If we were to just slap a sign on our Chabad house and expect people to just join and be excited to come in, I don't think we'd be very happy with the results. And really the same is with our children. We can't expect them to just be excited and just be inspired by what we're doing just because that's what we're doing. And more importantly, we need to constantly ask ourselves, how does our home feel from my child's perspective? Is it a haven, a place of love and comfort, a safe place to share what's on their mind and heart, a place of good food, good times, laughter? I know this to be true because I've experienced it. I have been infinitely blessed with wonderful role models in my parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents, who have taught me not with words, but simply by being who they are. Their dedication to the Rebbe and to his ideals have shown me what it means to live a life full of joy, meaning, and purpose, and gave me the drive and the passion to pass it on to future generations. There's an old famous saying, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. Truer words have never been spoken. And you don't need me to tell you, and I actually never saw the Rebbe say these exact words, that our moods and our reactions set the tone in the home. The Rebbe was so practical and so down to earth. It's always mind-boggling when I see the words coming straight out of his mouth. Simply the way we react to different situations can cause a huge shift for our child watching. Recently, our family was blessed with an unusual gift that quite literally landed from heaven into our laps. A brand new baby boy that I did not birth joined our family. We firmly believe that he belongs in our family and is a part of our family, but Hashem just had a creative way of bringing him to us. 6 months later, I gave birth to another baby boy, and we expanded our family by 2 children. This was a big shift for our whole family. It was of paramount importance to us, to my husband and I, that our children not feel resentful by this change, and on the contrary, they should feel how lucky and blessed we are to have been chosen for this awesome position. So naturally, we made a really big deal out of both of these boys. At this time, I noticed that my 3-year-old daughter, Devorah, was throwing tantrums every single day after school. At first, I thought this was just one more thing on my plate. But then, when I took a second look at it, I realized that this little girl, who was always the star of the show, and trust me, she still is, had 2 new people that came and were taking some of her thunder. I realized that she needed more time than I was giving her. And so I started doing mommy and Devorah time with her. We mostly just sit and I hold her in silence. Sometimes we'll read a book. But the point is, I'm showing her that I'm there. No amount of explaining how she holds a special place in my heart as the 3rd to youngest will ever mean as much as the time I spent holding her, not saying a word. And she'll often come over to me now and she'll say, Mommy and Devorah time. And then she'll add, without Shmulik or Gershom Mendel. She doesn't want that. Just mommy and Devorah time. And she herself knows. And I realize, okay, we need to go have mommy and Devorah time. We have a special swing outside. Our children notice when we are annoyed. They notice what we prioritize. They pick up on our Chassidish values when we demonstrate their importance. When my kids see my husband wake up every morning at 5 a.m. to learn before he becomes involved with his hectic schedule, it shows them that the importance of Torah learning is worth waking up an extra 2 hours early. And I'll actually would like to mention my mother-in-law who was here, who definitely instilled in all of her children the value and the importance of Torah learning. And definitely, you can see being passed on to the next generation. When my daughters see how much I love the challenge of dressing fashionably yet tzniustically, they don't simply understand that tznius helps us express what we really are in a dignified way. They know it. We can't just tell our children to have a relationship with Hashem. We need to model what that looks like. When we make Hashem a constant part of our interactions and work him into our daily conversations with our children, then they understand he is a real part of our lives. When we're in a rush to get to a store and make it just in the nick of time and say, Wow, thank you, Hashem, that we made it. Our children pick up on the attitude and that our attitude and thought process should always involve our gratitude and acknowledgement of Him. But showing our children the beauty of Yiddishkeit is not enough alone. In order for our children to love and implement the values we show, they must feel that not only is Torah and Chassidus something that is beautiful to us, their parents, the older generation. I never thought I'd ever say that about myself, but apparently the day has come. But also something that is theirs, something that they connect with too. As long as it remains in the realm of what their parents believe, it can be respected and admired, but it will not necessarily cultivate a feeling of warmth and ownership in their practical day-to-day life. This possession is found when we involve our children in their upbringing and help them make it their own. The other night, I was putting Devorah to bed. As you can see, she's very much the star of the show. And she looked up to me and she said, "Mommy, I don't want to say Shema." So instead of acting scandalized, as she probably was expecting me to, I said, "That's okay. You don't have to say Shema tonight." And then I just started telling her about how Hashem loves when we say Shema, and that it keeps us safe, and that it helps us not have bad dreams. Immediately, she turned around and she decided she wanted to say Shema. Instead of forcing her to take my convictions and appreciation for Shema, I simply helped her transfer it into her own tefillah. As I'm sure you can relate, some of my proudest moments as a mother are when I see my children intrinsically value what they have. When our oldest daughter, Musya, was around 6 years old, my parents invited her to go to them for a Shabbos. I think it was even Shabbos Chanukah. They wanted her to come for a Shabbos. She looked up at them and she said, "I can't come. We have a community." We love to repeat that story. It made me so proud to see that to her, she took this responsibility so seriously, that it wasn't that this was something that her parents chose and this was our role in life, but rather she was a part of it. And this is what we ultimately strive for our children to willingly apply what we emulate. When we give our children a childhood where they live Yiddishkeit, not only through a list of rules, but through interactive experiences, they attach their own particular feeling and meaning to it. This is why every Shabbos, although it's the busiest day of our week on Shlichus, Shabbos day, everyone knows, is family time. And although we have a big Hiddush and Shul and everyone's stuffed and can't eat another piece of food, we come home and we sit at the table and we go through all the parsha sheets, and every single child has their own individual song that somehow has their name in it. That's another conversation. And we tell Chassidish stories and just enjoy each other's company. And it often lasts until Shabbos is over, especially in these early Shabbosim, involving our kids in warm Chassidish atmosphere in which they are active participants. There is a reason why one of the cornerstones of Jewish education in schools and in yeshiva is chavrusa learning. The back and forth, the arguing, the delving, the expressing their own opinions and ideas obligates each person to fully immerse themselves in the learning process. Yes, there is a teacher in the front to field questions and help the learning process flow, but the actual understanding of the concepts are done through students grappling with the ideas themselves. Without it, it's just being spoon-fed. A similar perception can be applied to our children's interactions with Yiddishkeit. The Jewish home is Yiddishkeit's greatest classroom, and the Jewish mother is its greatest teacher. The children must involve their own selves to fully accept and appreciate Yiddishkeit, and it is the mother who orchestrates and guides this whole process from the day her child is born. She ensures the environment, means, wisdom, and is the support to allow her children to grow and learn throughout the process of childhood. Our children should know that they are our priority. Even with everything going on, they are what is most important and precious. The other day, I was nursing my little baby, who's only 10 weeks old, and I was scrolling on my phone when I looked down and I saw his big eyes were staring straight at me. My heart broke into a million pieces thinking about how long he must have been looking up at my expressionless face. When I first told my husband the story, I couldn't even say it without choking up. It broke my heart. Putting down our phones, being present for our children, noticing their little quirks, having a discussion about the chumash they're learning in school, this has to be what we show our children. Our primal love as a mother, the basic necessities in a child's day, and our Jewish values are not compartmentalized. We can infuse our love and our tending with these values, creating a loving spiritual whole. Being that each of our children happens to have a birthday in a different month of the year, it's pretty convenient. Each month, another birthday, and they're actually in order, interestingly. It was not planned. We like to take this opportunity to make a big deal out of each birthday and make the child feel special while focusing on the spiritual components. They have their favorite supper and whatever birthday theme they want. As you saw in the video, we had an animal theme last night. Our son Zev is a wolf. Zev is a wolf, and so he loves animals, and so we had an animal theme last night. And of course, the highlight, his birthday is actually tonight, but we did it last night because I wouldn't be there. And the highlight, of course, is the brachas that they give each other. And it's always so funny to me when you hear a little 3-year-old wishing her 14-year-old or her 60-year-old to have a lot of nachas and should have a lot of children and live till Mashiach. Those are the favorites. All of this is to create a Chassidish atmosphere of love and care that our children will remember. This is why, especially during COVID, I put in a lot of effort to set my table nicely. Incidentally, this is when I actually discovered my love for it. I want my children to look back at their childhood and remember family time, the conversation, the connection, the divrei Torah, all of it as something precious. I know that if I put the effort in to show my children how important they are and how meaningful a loving and Chassidish family is, that is the best way to ensure that they will pass it on to future generations. I know this importance firsthand since I put effort into my table because I remember my Bubby Krinsky doing the same. Bubby Krinsky was actually one of the first Bais Rivkah students as we're celebrating 80 years. When I think back to my youth, I love to remember the beautiful table my Bubby would set and the obvious care that went into making family time special. This feeling that I connect with is what makes me want to give the same experience to my children, who will in turn feel the love and value I place on each of them. I feel so grateful to my parents and grandparents who showed me the power of motherhood and the ability we have to shape our children's lives. They truly lived and breathed the words, Ashreinu ma tov chalkeinu, and how openly fortunate they felt to be Chassidim of the Rebbe. This is the legacy that they left, and I try every day to live up to it. That, to me, shows their success. I daven every day that my children will look back at their childhood and feel they received the warmth and love towards a lifestyle they chose, just like I did. My great-grandparents, the Posners, came to America about the time the Frierdiker Rebbe came to visit in 1929. As a welcome to this country, the neighborhood kids would knock off the yarmulke of my great-uncle. Chatzah Fagan advised that the Frierdiker Rebbe was seeing women and children, which I guess was something new at the time. My great-grandmother went in. I guess my Zayda Shalom was shechting at the time. And she walked in, holding one child by the hand and another in her arms. And she was already crying. How can I raise Yiddish Kinder in a so schweres Land? She said to the Frierdiker Rebbe. When she looked up, she saw that he was smiling, almost laughing. And she felt abandoned by the laughter, hurt that her pain wasn't being reckoned with. And then the Frierdiker Rebbe turned into a serious tone, and he said, "It is take a schwerer Land, but here you shall raise Yiddische Chassidische Kinder." She often told that story, and when she was no longer encumbered by short-term memory, she would repeat that story every 5 minutes, reliving the moment in its intensity and full spectrum emotion. And she would end off, "Aber ich hab nicht gelassen die Brache sitzen. Ich hab es durchgearbeitet." I didn't just let the bracha sit. I didn't just rely on the bracha the Frierdiker Rebbe gave me. I worked at it and let it work for me. So, I want to bench all of us in this humbling journey of motherhood to have tremendous kayach and success in living with the values that we hope to impart to our children, and in giving our children a Yiddishkeit that is not simply of their father and mother, but a Yiddishkeit that, through their active participation, is a Yiddishkeit that they can call their own.